What is up, my dear friends, and welcome back to another episode here on the Happy Heart Academy podcast. I am your host and relationship coach, Tyler Joe Stratton, and today we are talking about the very 3 steps that you must take in order for you to move on and get out of this heartbreak pain so that you can finally step into your happiness after this moment of heartbreak. But before we dive into that, my dear friends, be sure to check out, if you're not already, or have already, be sure to check out the free training in the show notes below. That free training will guide you back to happiness after your heartbreak, and it will also give you an opportunity to check out one of the amazing courses that I have available to you. It's an audio course. It's going to be about, I think it's like 3 hours long, but ultimately it's going to really help you to equip yourself with the proper information, skill set, as well as process that can help you to move on. I mean, if that's what you want to do, and if you still feel stuck in your doom and gloom, then that is definitely a training that you're going to want to check out. Now, on to today's episode, where we will discuss the 3 steps that you must take in order to move on so that you can create happiness after your heartbreak. My dear friends, today I found a calling to speak upon the very 3 steps that I wish someone would have enlightened me with 7 years ago that could have pushed my life and catapulted my life forward out of the pain from a breakup. And so if you're struggling currently with, a heartbreak, a breakup, a separation, a divorce, you lost yourself, or you lost someone you loved, this is exactly what I would recommend you do if you want to create a sense of happiness and movement in your life, because I know how challenging, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I understand how challenging it is for you to be able to move on through this, because when you go through a devastating time, a very difficult time, where that time is a heartbreak and you're losing yourself, you lost who you are as an individual, meaning like you feel like you lack purpose, you lack love, you lack significance, you lack an identity, because everything that you were was wrapped up in who you were with them. A lot of relationships, when we go into them, that's usually how it begins. It begins with this idea that who we are is just the identity of who we are with them. And we really create this persona, this person, this identity, who we are nothing without them, because everything that we are is with them. This can really set you up for a dangerous place, and ultimately a place that I found myself in 7 years ago. And it was just difficult. It was extremely hard. I found myself lost. I found myself depressed. I found myself questioning life. I found myself questioning love. I found myself asking God, why me? Why now? Why do bad things happen to me? Why can't I ever find someone who wants to be with me and stay with me? All of those questions. So, I'm hoping that today's episode really empowers you, enlightens you, guides you, and supports you through whatever stage of heartbreak you're currently at. And we're going to talk about 3 steps, but understand that when I share these 3 steps, I spend hours on my one-on-one coaching on these 3 steps. I spend hours within my coaching programs through these multiple steps on these 3 steps. And so I can't give you everything today, because you would be on here for hours. Literally, I have a 12-week coaching program wrapped up around these specific 3 steps. But I believe if I give you the roadmap to happiness and you have it, you're equipped with it, it's really your choice if you want to really propel yourself and push yourself forward. I think it's going to do you in your life very well. Just imagine, 12 weeks from now, when you're feeling more empowered, you found maybe a sense of purpose, and you have something to look forward to, something that brings you hope and excitement, something that brings you joy and everlasting support, something that brings you significance, something that brings you love and value, and you have a place in this world. Right now we can feel like we're very unsteady in our steps toward putting ourselves back on track, right? Time and time again, I get hundreds of you in my Instagram DMs and on my TikTok DMs just basically stating that you don't know how to move on, you don't know how to let go, you don't know how to heal. And I think you'll find that although that these 3 steps are simple, they're not always easy. I feel like it took me like multiple years to figure this out, But once I figured out a formula in which a lot of individuals kind of shared their story with me, or I read about their stories, these are the three things that they all did. And so it's going to be up to you to do these three things. You find someone who has done what you want to do and you duplicate it. And that's what I have done throughout the many years of studying. For the past 7 years, I've been researching how to begin to heal a broken heart. What are the things that you need to do in order to rebuild your identity, how to reclaim your story, how to really begin to push yourself and propel yourself into a future that you really want. So I'm hoping that today's episode really empowers you with the proper information and knowledge, skill set, and ability to be able to do that, because I know that your heart's on the line and it kind of can feel like life is lifeless and doomed and gloomed and it'll never go back to the way it once was. Well, here's the thing. You probably don't want it to go back to the way that it once was, because the way that it once was led you to exactly where you are today, which is not where you want to be. So we don't want you to recreate the past. We don't want you to go backward. We want you to go forward. We want to propel you into a hope-filled future, something that excites you, something that heals you, something that takes your thoughts off of your past and your ex and the reality that you once lived in, and put it into a happier state. And I'm hoping that, like I said, that today will help you to do just that. So let's dive in a little bit. I want to first off tell you that I was once where you were today. I once was there. I once was hopeless. I once was lost. I once was scared. I once was lonely. I once was trapped in my own thoughts of repetition of terrible thoughts of poor me mentality, victim mentality. And I hated it because I didn't know how to get out of it. But part of my journey is I started to identify my problems. I literally started out with a notepad and paper. If you're watching this on YouTube, I started out with a notepad and paper with a pen and started to write down the things that I wanted to change about myself, the problems that I thought that I had. I started to just identify, the things that I needed to fix. And part of my journey was fixing those problems. It was doing this first step, which was allowing myself to, step one, let go of the past that I wanted to recreate. Part of the reason why we suffer is because we want to recreate the past that no longer can exist in the present moment. I wanted my present moment to be my past, and I couldn't really recreate that. It was really challenging for me to find peace in the present moment when I lived in the past constantly by reminding myself of how things used to be. You'll never find peace in the present moment when you're always thinking about how things used to be. It becomes sad. You become scared, you become lost, you become hopeless. When you spend enough time in the past, you're going to steal away from your happiness today. And so part of the process here is to allow yourself to make a committed decision in the letting go process. You must allow yourself to make a committed decision to give yourself not only time, but also space to heal your broken heart, to allow yourself to grieve the pain, to allow yourself to sit with and without changing it or without wishing things were different. It's oftentimes your ability to let go is step one. I need you to really focus on letting go. So what does letting go mean? Letting go means allowing yourself to be okay with the past and living presently in this very moment so that the past doesn't sneak up on you in the present moment. It's your ability to just release negativity. It's your ability to accept what was. The greatest form of letting go is, another way to think of it, is allowing. Letting go means, if you're doing the opposite of letting go, it means you're holding on. Letting go means to accept, meaning to release the past and accept what was and what has occurred and what currently is. Like I said, I know that sounds simple, but it's not always easy. And you're probably saying, "Well, Tyler, you don't understand. I have kids," or "Tyler, you don't understand. I work with them," or "Tyler, you don't understand my situation." Like, how do you let go of someone you've been with for 36 years? I get it. Well, once again, there's a way to move on. You read enough books about it, you listen enough people's stories about it. You're not the only story that has a similar situation that has occurred. You were with them for 30 plus years. You're heartbroken. You were with them for 5 years, 6 years. You were dating them. You thought they were for your forever. They thought, whatever your story is, there was some other human being that has once lived that story. Now you have to find those individuals or learn from somebody who learned from those individuals to help guide you through this situation, this storm, this problem. The way through is to learn from others. That's the power of community. That's the power of connection and understanding other people's story. Now, when you are struggling to move on, it's because you're not allowing yourself to release the past from the present. You continuously remind yourself of all of the good times and also the bad times, the times that you regret. You wish you wouldn't have said something. You wish you would have done something differently. Maybe you are struggling to move on from the happy memories of celebrations and milestones in your life, and feeling like, you know what, at least I had someone to go with me to the grocery store, on when I don't feel like I'm doing life alone. Like I always enjoy just having somebody around. And it is beautiful. Having a relationship, having a wife, having a husband, having a significant partner in your life is a beautiful, a beautiful contribution to your overall life's happiness. I think when I do anything, I want to make sure that my wife is there with me. I don't want to miss a moment with her. And so I understand if I were to think about something happening to my wife and we are no longer together, whether she passes away or something bad happens and we can't seem to move through it, ultimately, I feel a deep hurt. I feel a deep loneliness. I feel a deep sadness. I feel a deep, moment of grief and just this bad feeling. So I know how to put myself back there because I was once there myself. And I want to help you through this, but like, if you want to let go, you've got to commit to letting go. You've got to allow yourself to make the committed decision. Are you going to move on with courage or hold on with, hope? Are you going to hold on with patience? Are you going to hold on with a moment of just allowing yourself to, maybe they'll come back? See, if you are ready to move on, I need you to really just think about what it means to make a committed decision. A committed decision is really about allowing yourself to not go back on your word. It's allowing yourself to do exactly what you set out to do, which the goal is to move on so that you can create happiness. So the goal is to live happily and more peacefully. Like, you don't feel like you have to rely on someone to bring you a sense of love, significance, happiness, purpose, value. So I need you to think about it. Have you made a committed decision in your life to move on? Or are you sitting on the fence between moving on and holding on? Because if you sit on the fence, you're never going to be able to get a result. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel hopeless. You're going to feel lost. You're going to feel confused. One foot in, one foot out. It's black or it's what? Like, you're in the gray area. You've got to choose. And what I did was I decided to choose that this person was no longer good for me and that I had to move on so that I could create happiness. Because to be realistic with you, my past wasn't as good as my present. And how do I know that? Is because she brought a lot of pain into my life. She hurt me significantly, and I'm no longer hurt from it. I moved on. I healed. I created happiness. I accepted what has happened, and it's allowed me to, really get a grip on life, really to move myself forward, or allow myself to make clearer and better and quicker decisions to improve my financial game, improve my career, improve my purpose, improve my identity, write a book, create a podcast, do things with my life. So how do you let go? You give yourself the ability to make a committed decision, which is to move on. And once you've created that committed decision, then you must allow yourself to give yourself the space in order to let go, meaning that you cannot go back to the same person that hurt you and expect to heal. That's like drinking poison and that the thing that made you sick and expect to heal. If you continue to eat the poisonous food, you're going to continue to get sick. Don't continue to do the thing that hurts you, because that's not what's going to heal you. And I know that sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised of how many times people are like, yeah, well, I can't seem to delete them from my social media. I can't seem to stop texting them. I can't stop seeming to reminisce on the pictures and the moments. I can't seem to give up that sweatshirt. I can't seem to let go and throw away these memories. Well, this is part of the reason why you're not healing, is because you're not creating the space you need in order to heal. So part of the letting go process, my friend, is to give yourself the time and space away from them, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Physically, meaning the remnants of the past memories, like box up the things that are causing you to miss them, and give yourself a new environment to heal. So let go by accepting what has happened, and try not to change it. Just allow it to be. Sit with it and allow it to be. Don't try to change it. Don't try to create a different story. Don't tell yourself a story that's going to victimize you, to make you feel bad about the situation and about yourself. Your story is what is causing you to suffer. The story that you're currently telling yourself in the letting go phase is going to stop you from being able to let go, because ultimately the story is disempowering you. It's causing you to suffer. And that's what I talk about a lot with my one-on-one coaching, is once I understand the story that you've been telling yourself, we rewrite the story so that you can start to understand, when you change your story, when you change the script, you really begin to change your life. Change your story, change your life. So we can talk about that, how to change your story, how to rewrite your story so that it can empower you to create happiness after heartbreak. But right now, let's just talk about letting go. Letting go is the first step that you need to take in order for you to move on. Now, the second step, this step has significantly improved my happiness, removed my depression, and my thoughts of suicide. It has helped me to recreate who I am and find something worth fighting for and creating in my own personal life. Like, I realized that, once I learned to accept it and that this person wasn't good for me, I started to see how they weren't good for me, because I accepted it, because I allowed myself to see the truth. I took off the rose-colored glasses and allowed myself to see who this person truly was and why they weren't no longer good for me. And then once I let them go, it allowed me to free up enough space and enough time, because when you're not with them, right, all this time that you spent with them, all this time that you took to, uh, you know, hang out with them, watch Netflix, go to the movies, date, cook, dinners, all of those things that you used to do with them, a lot of free time has been released, right? You have a lot of free time back on your plate. And now what are you going to do? You're going to sit on social media, you're going to watch Netflix, or you're going to, listen to sad music, or you're going to go drive around and try to find them and see what they're doing. Are you going to try, you're going to try to, follow them and try to talk to someone to learn about what they're doing now? Like, what are you going to do with your free time? And this is where most people get it wrong. A lot of people cause themselves a lot more suffering because they don't know what to do in their free time. And you know what I did in my free time, and you know what hundreds of, if not thousands, if not millions of other people did in their free time to help them advance and move forward? They didn't get back into another relationship because they were lonely. They didn't, watch a bunch of porn to satisfy them. They didn't go out to parties. They didn't go out to nightclubs. They didn't, destroy their mind. They didn't destroy their bodies. They didn't destroy themselves in the process. They actually rebuilt a better relationship with themselves by focusing on constant self-improvement. That's the secret. I ended up starting to, looking back now, I really started to rebuild a better relationship with myself. I started to build back a happier relationship with myself by focusing on constant self-improvement. It was by focusing on personal development, understanding how to improve one's quality of life. There are secrets and tactics and ways in which you can enrich your life. And sometimes you're one book away from a completely changed life. There's a book that I have over here behind me. So there's two books. There's my book, The Big Three, and then there's this book right here called The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. That was the book that changed my life forever. It was the first book that I've ever read from front to back. And you could probably see it if you're watching it on YouTube, but it's a really thick book. It's over I think it's like 400 plus pages, which is a huge book to me. I don't usually read that thick of books, especially when I first started reading books. So what I did was I spent my free time focusing on rebuilding back a relationship with myself. I started to spend one-on-one time. I started to go on walks in the woods to just find solitude, to find silence, to find myself. This idea of how do you find yourself? You find yourself by getting to know yourself. How do you get to know yourself? By spending time alone with yourself. The same thing that you do to get to know someone else is what I need you to do to get to know you, right? You spend time with them, right? You sit down with them, you ask them questions, you get to kind of know them on a deeper level by spending more time with them. So the more time you spend alone in solitude with yourself, whether it be on walks, whether it be just writing in a journal, whether it be, whatever it is, there's just no distraction. It's just you, yourself, and I, basically, right? When I start to spend more time with myself, what I did was I started to read more books about relationships, about love, about success, about finance, about religion and faith and healing and grief, and all these books that empowered me to see different perspectives. Change your thoughts, change your life, right? I started to read different books that really helped me to understand that I can create a personal development growth plan for myself to help me get to know myself better and to really focus on growth, because I really believe this. One of the biggest secrets to happiness is continuous self-improvement. It's just growth. If you're not growing, you're dying, you're decaying, right? I think everything has a death and life cycle. As you're living, you must be focusing on growing. If you're not growing, you will die. That's why most people, when they get hit retirement, they die within the first 5 years of retirement, because their life dwindles and they stop focusing on, living fully by growing daily through interacting with people, by going to work, by waking up for a reason and purpose. Like they're on their end times of their life and they're giving up. No, this is the time to double down and to really focus on you. So I challenge you to rebuild back a better relationship with yourself. Start reading personal development books. If you need recommendations, DM me in my Instagram DMs and just ask me, what books do I recommend for this specific problem that you're dealing with? There's so many powerful resources. You can listen to audiobooks, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to YouTube channels and videos. You can take courses like I did. You can go to seminars like I did. You can literally just absorb yourself into an hour each day, just focusing on personal growth and constant self-improvement. Because when you build back a better relationship with yourself, because you know who you are, it becomes easier to make yourself happy, because you know what makes you happy and you know what doesn't. So you'll start to do the things that make you happy, and you'll be surprised, but you will find happiness because you're doing the very things that are supposed to make you happy. There are things that you shouldn't do that's going to cause you to feel depressed. That's going to feel lonely and hopeless. There's going to be thoughts. So what you need to do, if you can't control your thoughts, allow someone else to control them. That's what I did. I wasn't strong enough to control all my thoughts. And I was okay with that. I didn't dwell in them. What I did was I was like, okay, that's a bad thought. I can't seem to pull myself out of these negative thoughts. So what do I have to do? I have to listen to someone. I had to listen to podcasts. I had to listen to motivational clips. Although I don't really care for motivational clips, I'm looking for more tactical ways to improve my life by listening to other people's stories. You can listen to those. I don't recommend music either, because I think music's rather manipulative, and with the harmonies and melodies that can also make you, just the tune of them can make you feel sad. It can cost you a moment of depression just because you tuned into, maybe a phrase or a word that hit and you're like, man, that really stuck, and this is why it stuck. So sometimes I don't recommend music, but ultimately just thinking and listening to other people's stories and how they got through what they went through to overcome the challenges that you feel like you can't overcome, because your story is not really that impressive. Your story is not that big of a deal when you think about the evolution of human history and the amount of stories that people have went through. Your story is not any different. When I allowed myself to accept that and realize, like, hey, I'm the victim of my own story, of my own words, of my own perception, my reality, and I want to change that. I needed to begin to listen to people that have changed their life so that I could focus on changing mine. So I'm asking you, once you allowed yourself time to let go and create an environment to really heal and move on, what you really need to do is build back a better relationship with yourself. And if you're here listening to this right now, this is part of the process. It's why I started the podcast, is because it allows me to focus on constant self-improvement, to continue to collect information, to then I'll release that information to you into your ears, into your car, on your bike or working out or wherever you're listening to me at. And I really appreciate you being here, because I know that part of who you are is a person who's ready to grow, ready to improve, ready to move on. So once again, there is a personal development regimen that you can follow, part of my one-on-one coaching or part of my 12-week coaching courses that enhance the quality of life you live by helping you reestablish a better relationship with yourself. So once again, focus on building back a better relationship with yourself. And last but not least, something that really pushed my life forward, got me out of the pain and put me into a more peaceful and happier space was, I really, last but not least, I what I call is focusing forward. I allowed myself to sit down and figure out what I really wanted out of life. Like, have you ever asked yourself, what do I really want and desire? What do I want my life to be about? I know these are some tough conversations to have with yourself, but it's a conversation that you need to have, because you'll never be able, hear me out. And I know I say this all the time, but it's so true. You will never be able to move on from your painful past if you don't have something hopeful to look forward to in the future. If you feel like you don't have a hope-filled future, it's going to be hard for you to move out of the painful past, because you have nothing to look forward to. Allow that to sink in. If you have nothing to look forward to because you haven't created anything to look forward to, then you're going to be stuck and sit in the doom and gloom in the present moment because of your past. I need you to pull yourself out of this by giving yourself something to look forward to. At the time of my parents' divorce, when I was going through very difficult times, I mean, I feel like I moved probably over 12 times in my life within the first probably 5 to 6 years of my life, just back and forth between homes, never feeling settled in, always watching my two parents fight, my mom calling the cops on my dad on my mom sleeping around, my dad, throwing back the bottle, my mom throwing back the bottle, like coming, not being able to go to bed until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning because my mom's staying up all night partying with people in our house. I remember this times of deep suffering as a child. And with me saying that, everything that I experienced as a child prepared my vision for a hope-filled future. I wanted to create a peaceful home. I wanted when people walked into my home, I wanted them to feel at peace and relaxed. I wanted to create a family because I never had a true family growing up. I never watched my mom and dad have a healthy relationship. So I wanted to create a healthy marriage. I wanted to have my mom just sent me a photo of one of the photos that I drew in I think it was like second or third grade or something like that, maybe even kindergarten, actually 2003, maybe, I don't remember. Regardless, there was a photo that I drew, and it was with a sentence that said, all I want is a small dog with pointy ears. And it was a picture that she sent me. And, here we are 20 plus years later, 23 years later. And I have it. I have my puppy. I have my short, small dog, not pointed ears, but still, you've got to create things that you want in your life so that you have something to look forward to. A lot of you can't move on because you don't feel like you have something to look forward to, but it's your responsibility to give yourself and your family a vision for a hope-filled future, something that excites them, something that brings them hope, compassion, passion, purpose, significance, identity, something bigger than yourself. And what mine has become is I want to be able to give back to people what a book and a podcast gave to me when I was going through my deep suffering. There's one author that sticks out to me right now, and one podcaster that sticks out to me right now. His name's Brennan Burchard. In my lowest of lows, I tuned into him. Podcasting came into my life. I started to tune in the podcast, Brennan show. It was such a powerful moment in my life because I started to listen to personal development and things that could change my life, because if you don't like your life, then you have to change it. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So what could I do? I was a kid that lived in a trailer park in a 2-bedroom trailer, feeling completely trapped by, financial distress, lost and hopeless relationships, people that are, drunk and, always fighting, and is very chaotic. How do I get out of that? I have to get out of that by constantly improving the relationship with myself, by allowing myself to sit in constant self-improvement, and then creating a hope-filled future, something that excited me, a future that it seemed almost impossible to receive because of the environment that I was allowing myself to live in. But I started to change because I gave myself hope. So here's my recommendation for you if you're currently struggling to move on because you feel stuck in your painful past, you're stuck in a heartbreak, you're stuck in a breakup, a separation, a divorce. You've got to do what you must in order to let go. Once you've given yourself the time and space needed in order to let go, you need to rebuild a relationship with yourself. And after you build a relationship with yourself, you need to focus on something that you can begin to create an identity around, a purpose around. I started the Happy Heart Academy. I started a podcast. I became a best-selling author. I started to improve my relationship with myself. I started to help other people through this difficult time. I wanted to give back the same thing that these books and these podcasts gave me, which was hope, which was a belief in myself, which was digital mentors. It was a beautiful process now that I look back, and I hope that I can be that for you, but ultimately you need to be that for you. And if you don't feel like you can, that's why there's power of podcasting, power of books, power of videos and courses. So listen, I could go for hours on this. It's only been about 30 minutes right now, but ultimately I could go for hours on this. And if you're really interested in getting more in-depth training on how to let go, how to rebuild a relationship with yourself, and how to focus forward, be sure to check out the link in the show notes, or you can check out the link in the show notes. There is a course called Happiness After Heartbreak, and it's my 12-week course where I teach you exactly the steps that I took and the steps that have thousands of other people have already taken before you to help them move on and heal. So if you want access to that, that's a digital course. You can take it as you please, but it's an empowering course. It's part of my one-on-one coaching. It's all part of that, but ultimately check that out. If you haven't been able to move on in the past 90 days, what are you doing? You're not changing. You're not being held accountable. You're not allowing yourself the gift to move on. So be sure to check that that course out. It's like, I think it's like $197 or $297, whatever it is. It's worth investing in because it's going to significantly help you improve your life. My name is Tyler Stratton, and I am your heartbreak relationship coach, helping you to move on and overcome the obstacles stopping you from achieving more happiness and success in your life and relationships. And if this podcast has helped you, I would love for you to do me a solid favor and leave a review on Apple podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to it at, because the more reviews that we get, the more lives that we reach.